Hello Ned. Hello. I'm Ned. This is Lee. And today we watched a movie. An old movie. It wasn't that old. It was from 1987. It lasted 1 hour 29 minutes. And it's called Young Houdini. Yeah, it's an old Disney movie. That it's not on Disney Plus. No, we couldn't find it on Disney Plus. It's on YouTube. It might be on Disney Plus in your region, but it's not here. Anyway, let's get into it. So, Young Houdini stars Will Wheaton. Yep, from Space Trek, Star Trek. Space Wars, Star Trek. Star Trek, yeah. Oh yeah, that thing of the dog. Yeah, he's not in that one. Is he not? I don't think so. Good. Anyway, it stars Will Wheaton and a bunch of other people. It's a TV movie, and it's another family movie, isn't it? Yeah. We start off the movie, and Harry Houdini is on stage. He's probably in his 40s at this point. Yep. And he's on stage, and he's doing this escape trick. You know who Harry Houdini is? Yeah. Well, he's an escape artist and a magician. That he's on stage doing this escape trick where he's putting a big tank of water upside down, suspended by his ankles, and he has to escape. And everyone thinks it goes wrong, and everyone's saying, getting out, but actually, he's already out. He's magic, he's Houdini. After he comes off stage, he dries himself off, he goes backstage and he sits to have a chat and a little drink with his friend, Arthur Conan Doyle. Arthur who? Arthur Conan Doyle, who was the author of the Sherlock Holmes books. Ah, we watched Sherlock Holmes as well. We watch Game of Shadows. Yeah, check it out. Okay. And in real life, Harry Houdini and Arthur Conan Doyle were friends. Arthur Conan Doyle was a bit obsessed with the afterlife and the idea of being able to come back after you passed on. And Houdini was having none of it. Yeah, so in this movie, Arthur Conan Doyle keeps asking Houdini, you're magic, you can do magic. How do you speak to the dead? And all that stuff. And Houdini says, well, I've never encountered anything like that, but there was one thing that happened to me many years ago. Yeah, and then it goes into a flashback, and the whole movie from then on is a flashback. So we do flashback to young Harry Houdini, who is about 14, and he is putting on shows for the other kids in his neighbourhood. But back then his name was Eric Weiss. Yeah, that it's Eric, E-H-R-I-C-H. Very good. Yeah. Who's wise now? No, not wise, Weiss. So he's put on these shows with his brother, and his dad says, listen, you need to grow up and get a job. He gets a job with the local watchmaker, or locksmith, I think it is. Who knows? Anyway, he gets a job, and then one day while he's at work, his brother comes rushing into the store and says to him, this famous magician is in town, we've got to go and see him. So Eric, young Houdini, decides, okay, I'll just nip out for a little while. So he nips off. No. What actually happens is, he's doing an errand with his boss, and they pass a saloon, a bar, and his boss says, you sit out here, Eric, I'm going to go in and have a little drink. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so actually, when Eric runs off to see this magician, good on him. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, imagine if you were out on an errand with your boss, and your boss says, I'm going to go into the pub for an hour. You sit out here, don't do anything, just sit here and wait. You'd be like, forget it, mate. I'm either coming in or I'm going home. See ya. Yeah. So Eric goes to see this famous magician. What's his name? I don't know, I don't remember. But in real life, he's played by real life magician, Billy McComb. Oh, is he real? He was a real magician, and he was very good, and he shows some things in the movie. He shows some card tricks, he shows some coin tricks. Yeah, he takes a coin, right, and he makes it disappear, and then he makes it reappear. And it's real magic. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So that night, So that evening he goes home and he shows his mum, look, I can make a coin disappear, but he's learned a couple of tricks from this magician. Yeah, and his nun's like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. But then his dad comes in and says, what are you doing to the Stanley? You are sacked today. Yeah, his dad's not happy, and Eric's sent to bed. But during the night, Eric wakes up and he says to his brother, listen, I'm going to run away. So he does. He skips town and he says to his brother, you stay here. You're not coming with me. I need to do this alone. It's not dangerous at all in the 1800s for a 14-year-old boy to be travelling along the great wilderness. Anyway, he jumps on a boxcar. What? One of the old trains. Oh, yeah. Like, yeah, you've seen the old movies like this? Yeah, but you've seen the proper old movies when someone would be run away from home. They would jump on a big old-fashioned train and hide in one of the boxcars. Yeah, I want to do that. But you want to run away? No, I just want to jump on a train. Right, well, these days it's much harder. They go a lot faster. It's far more dangerous. Don't jump on a moving train these days. Fine then. Style start. I'm not spoils. So eventually the train takes him to, let's say, Chicago. And he jumps out, and then the train master's there, and he says, hey, who's that trying to catch a free lift? And he chases him, and he alerts the police, and Eric runs away, and he's running through town, and he dumps into this young lady, and he's like, well, she's pretty. And he knocks down all her stuff. The clumsy fool. Right. Then they give each other the eyes. You know the eyes. He manages to outrun the police, and he eventually finds a sideshow. This gentleman is on stage. What's his name? This is Dr. Tybalt Grimaldi. What? That's his name. Tybalt Grimaldi. Dr. Grimaldi. Oh, okay. So he watches the sideshow where Dr. Grimaldi is selling potions, and he's putting on displays of magic and things like that. Yeah, and he realises the young lady he dunked into earlier, Eric dunked into, was Dr. Grimaldi's granddaughter, and she's part of the act. So basically, he follows them after they've tacked up and finished their show, and he just stands beside them and says, hey, can I get a job? Can I get a job? Can I get a job? And he just won't leave them alone. Well, he says he can do magic. Dr. Grimaldi says, well, I do magic. We've got enough magic in the show. And then he says, well, Dr. Grimaldi, I can actually escape from anything. Yeah, so this is where I meet the third member of the roadshow. Because so far it's Dr. Grimaldi, his granddaughter Cordelia. I think it's Cordelia. Let's say so. And the third member is John Grey Wolf. Yeah, he's a Native American, and his name was Grey Wolf, but nowadays he goes by John. Yeah, and he's mute. He cannot speak. Remember that? Okay. So John ties up Eric, young Houdini. Yeah, John ties up Eric and some tight rope, and he's not a tight rope. No, not a tight. No, just rope. He ties it tightly. Yeah, right. So he ties up Eric, and Eric says, yeah, I can escape from this. And this is probably about, what, 9 p.m? Yeah, something like that. And they're all by this little campfire. They've set up camp for the night. And then it gets to about 4 a.m, and everyone's asleep. And Eric suddenly comes bursting into Dr. Grimaldi's tent and says, look, I did it. I got free. I freed myself from the rope. And even though it's taken like 7 hours or something, Dr. Grimaldi is suitably impressed, and he says, okay, young man, you have a job. So they travel around the Midwest of America, and they're doing little sideshows, little road shows in different towns, and they're collecting money. People are giving them tips. They're winning wagers with these little tricks and scams. Yeah, they're basically con artists. Well, and one town they go to, Eric is put in a big wooden box, and it's lifted up by a rope. Yeah, but then the rope is moved, and Eric's dangled over a cliff, and he's inside this box. And this guy says, listen, I'll bet you 50 ducks that he can't get out. Yeah. So Dr. Grimaldi says, okay, I'll take that bet. Yeah. But Eric is like, what? Okay. But he's inside the box, dangling over a cliff. And to make things more difficult, yeah, for no reason at all other than his own amusement and to save 50 ducks, this guy, because they're all cowboys like, this cowboy takes his gun out and shoots the rope, making it a lot weaker. Yeah, it's like hanging by one strand. And then the rope snaps. The box falls and clatters to the earth below. Yeah, and the cowboy's laughing and laughing and laughing. Yeah, he's just watched a teenager. He's just killed a teenager, basically. Yep, you're going to jail. But he's laughing away. Eric's friends, Cordelia and the doctor, are all standing looking a bit sad. And then Eric appears behind them on stage. Ta-da! He says he doesn't know how he got there. But the cowboy says, well, fair's fair. That's the best trick I ever saw. Here's 50 bucks. And wanders off happily. Yeah. And then later that night, Eric is talking to John about it. Well, he's talking to everyone really at the campfire. And he says, I don't know how I did it. I just closed my eyes and I was out of the docks. And Cordelia and her grandfather go to bed. And then it's just him and John. And he says to John, oh, I wish I knew how I got out that docks. And John, who's Newt from the Ender, sneaks. He does. He basically explains to Eric, magic is real. It's not just tricks. It is real, and John knows how to do magic. And Eric says, I thought you couldn't talk. And John says, I just never had anything to say before now. Yeah, John explains that he was given the tower by his higher spirit. Yeah, he looks up this guy and says, every year or every generation, one person from his tribe is given the power by the Great Spirit. And he got it, and he is going to help Eric Weiss develop it. So the next day they go out to the desert to practice, and Eric learns he's flying and then realises so much in his imagination. And John explains that everything that's magic can be real, but only if the person witnessing it can imagine it's real. So even though it's all in your mind, it is basically real to anyone watching. That? Well, I know what I mean. And he gives Eric a sacred necklace. Yeah, he says this gives you the tower. You can harness the tower using this, and you'll be the greatest magician who ever lived. Don't use it for revenge though. That's right, he says don't use it for revenge, or the power will be taken off you. In another town they go to, there are this family called the Johnsons, and the Johnsons make a bet, and they lose the bet with the sideshow people, and they are angry. And the prize was, if the Johnsons won this bet, whatever it was, this challenge, that they would have Cordelia's hand in marriage. Yeah, even though she's like 15, and these guys are like 30. They're like, yeah, she's gonna be my wife. And Professor Dr. Grinaldi is like, okay, I'll take that bet. Yeah, so they flee town. So later on, they find the travelling sideshow, and they're going to confront Grimaldi, and they're going to take Cordelia as one of their wives. Yeah, but then John uses magic to scare them off. Sneakily, no one knows it's him. Yeah, he makes snakes appear and things like that. So they run off. And then Eric decides this won't end, so they'll just keep coming after us. So he travels out to the ranch, the Johnsons' ranch, and he plays mind tricks on them. Yeah, for revenge. Yeah. He makes it look like their house has exploded. He makes it look like there's fire all around them. Things are flying, and, you know, all things to scare them. Yeah, and they're like, forget this. Let's just hide forever. He has ruined our lives. So Cordelia's free. Yeah, for now. No, well, she's free. That's it. By the way, did you say Cordelia? Yeah, that's what you said. Her name's Calpurnia. Oh. Calpurnia, my apologies. It was you that said it though. No. I think you'll find it was you. We'll check the film later. No. Just trust me, it was you who messed up. Or fine. So after the big showdown with the Johnsons, Eric and John are standing under a tree and they're having a little chat. And John touches Eric. What? John touches Eric's neck. Yeah, mystical like. Yeah. And the whole movie we've just seen is replayed quickly in flashback form, flying through Eric's mind. Yeah, and then Eric sits up. It was all a dream. Well, most of it. Yeah, what happened was, when he was in the big box suspended over the cliff, remember? Yeah, I remember. He was suspended over the cliff. What actually happened was, he fell. He was thrown clear of the box before it landed, luckily, somehow. I don't know how, it was a sealed box, tied up. But anyway, he's thrown clear of it, and he bumped his head, and he's been unconscious for like 3 days, or 3 weeks or something. Yeah, so it's all been a dream. But then he says, listen, no, there's this family called the Johnsons, and they live in Caternia. And what's weird is, Dr. Grinaldi says, yeah, they left town days ago, no one knows why. Yeah, and Eric says, well, of course we scared them off, John and I. Tell them, John. Calpurnia says, Eric, you know John can't speak. What an insensitive fool you are. She doesn't say that, no, she doesn't say that, but basically she says, you know he can't speak. And Eric says, no, he can speak, he's just never had anything worth saying before. Tell them, John. And John just looks at him, yeah, like, yeah, okay, with like a weird look in his face. Grimaldi says, no, Eric, John doesn't speak because his tongue was cut out when he was a child. Ugh, I know. Telling us that for? Disgusting. And then we go back to present day. Harry Houdini, full grown adult, world's greatest performer, is sitting with Sherlock Holmes, genius, Arthur Conan Doyle. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I think you're right, yeah. I am? Okay. And he says, well, we've talked the whole night away. We must get some sleep. So Conan Doyle says, right, cheerio, that is quite a story you've told me. Maybe some things just are in your imagination. Or maybe there's real magic. Harry Houdini says goodbye, closes the door, and then reaches into his shirt and he pulls out the necklace that John gave him. Do you remember the necklace that harnesses the tower? The sacred necklace? Yeah, they know. And that's the end. End credits. So, what did you think of young Houdini? Well, it was okay. It was harmless fun. I remember seeing this movie years and years ago on TV, and I think I saw it 2 or 3 times on TV during the summer, and then I could never find it for years and years, right? And then eventually I was reminded of what it was, and I found it on YouTube. Yeah, so you can find it right here on YouTube. You can also find other videos that we've done. We do a daily quiz, we do unboxings, and we do nudie reviews like this one. So have a look around, hit subscribe, hit like, and I'll see you next time. See you next time. Abracadabra. Bye. Bye.